go.
How many of you here have caught a carp before? Everybody, awesome. And was everybody able to identify what species that was? Cool. Now, do you know if it is a naturalized species or an invasive species? The introduction of invasive species into an ecosystem has extremely detrimental effects, and not being aware of the invasive species in that waterway furthers the degradation of the environment. Asian carp invasion is posing negative effects in the waterways, and anglers and boats need to be aware of this issue. The term Asian carp refers only to the grass, silver, bighead, and black carp. These four fish were introduced into the United States relatively recently compared to their other Asian counterparts, such as the common carp, goldfish, and even the koi fish. In the 1970s, we began importing these fish into aquaculture facilities and other ponds to help curb the growth of vegetation. This mostly happened in the South, namely catfish farms. And although the establishment of these fish into the Mississippi River Basin is linked to the flooding of these aquaculture systems, grass carp have been reported reproducing in the basin since the 70s, and it is documented that bighead were established prior to 1990. So we're not exactly sure how exactly these fish got into the system and became reproductive and basically flourishing in the system. Now, triploid grass carp are obtainable through the state's fish commission through permits, mostly obtained by private landowners or public pond owners to help, again, curb vegetation. Triploid grass carps are able to be purchased because they are considered sterile. They won't reproduce, therefore they're deemed okay to have in the environment. However, diploid Asian carp can result in hefty fines if you are found in possession of them. Now, Asian carp feed by filtration methods using feeding primarily on plankton. Because of this, standard angling methods aren't typically successful when catching these fish. They also outcompete native fish for these resources. In native ranges, these grass carp can grow to more than 200 pounds and can live up to 10 years. As you can see by this picture, these fish can be huge. I mean, that's the size of a person. So their first year of life, they gain about 2 pounds, and then they can gain up to 7 pounds after that. That is a big fish. These juvenile grass carp are migratory, and their home ranges don't really matter, like they don't have one. Because of this characteristics, grass carp are willing to go just about anywhere, and they can live just about anywhere. Because of their generalistic behavior regarding habitat, they migrated all over the United States. As you can see in this map, everywhere that there's a dot, there's a documented case of an Asian carp. The larger the dot, the more cases of Asian carp. So as you can see by the map, I mean, they're pretty much everywhere at this point. So our main goal now is just trying to keep them out of the Great Lakes system. In 2002, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers constructed an electrical fish fence in the Chicago Ship Canal, which really is the only navigable waterway from the Mississippi River Basin to the Great Lakes system. So it's right there. I'm only 5 foot tall, I'm sorry. And it worked really well keeping the fish out of the system. So in 2004, they established a more permanent fence. But since then, 18 additional sites have been identified that could allow Asian carp movement into the Great Lakes system. So now we have to ask the question, what would happen if Asian carp were to reach the Great Lakes? Well, Lake Erie apparently is super great habitat for Asian carp to live in. And if they were to live in Lake Erie, they would flourish and completely just choke out all of the native fish. Ohio has a multi-million sport fishing industry. if Asian carp were to get in the system and totally just choke out all of these fish, I couldn't even imagine what would happen to Ohio's economy if the sport fishing industry were to just crash on itself. Like that's astronomical, really. Also, the feeding habitats can cause an increase in water turbidity and a decrease in dissolved oxygen. Now, everyone here knows that a decrease in dissolved oxygen can cause stress in native fish, possibly leading to fish kills, and an increase in turbidity causes a decrease in photosynthesis, and it could also disturb other habitats such as like nest builders and things like that. So it really just shifts a bunch of population dynamics in the system. Not only that, but they are voracious. They have a voracious appetite. So they just consume and consume and consume. I mean, if it's a 200-pound fish, like it needs to eat a lot. And since they primarily eat on like zooplankton, things like that, zooplankton is important in the food web for juvenile fish. Juvenile fish can't eat the zooplankton, and they don't grow, and they die, and everyone's upset. And not only are they a huge threat to the environment, they are a huge threat to us as well. In 2010, a carp reportedly knocked out a kayaker who was participating in a race in the Missouri River because bees jumped out of the water and knocked him out. Silver carp, when startled, can jump up to 10 feet in the air. I don't know about you, but if a 200-pound fish came jumping out of the water at me, I wouldn't even like begin to participate in anything regarding those waters. Like, that's just scary. So, we are left to consider what we can do about it. Well, the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission has issued a couple of statements urging anglers and boaters to thoroughly clean gear and boats before entering new waterways. This is primarily done to prevent eDNA, which is environmental DNA, from being transported between different waters, because that's what they use to identify Asian carp within the system. Also, they want anglers and boaters to be able to identify Asian carp species. They have many teaching tools on their website for those interested in learning about the identification. You are urged to contact the Fish and Boat Commission if you suspect that Asian carp are in the system. And most importantly, if you catch an Asian carp, don't release it back into the system. That's just stupid. So, could you imagine what would happen to your favorite fishing spot if Asian carp were a part of your system? Your large bass wouldn't be that large, and you wouldn't, pulling out common carp just for the fun of it would just be a thing of the past. The amount of fish you catch would also decrease, and you'd be sad because you didn't catch that fish. Preventing Asian carp from spreading into PA waters and the Great Lakes system is a huge priority for the Fish and Boat Commission, and it should be a huge priority of yours as well. Are there any questions?